she's so fine. Hell of a hell of a blows my mind. Hell of a hell of a lights my day.
What's good, guys? This story came out yesterday. It's coming from the Bronx. And again, thanks to Marie722 for sending it to me. Blunt force trauma to the skull. New details emerge in killings of twin baby boys in New York. Suspect remains at large. The New York Police Department has promised a $10,000 reward for credible information about the deaths of two newborn babies, whose bodies turned up in the Bronx at about 1:45 p.m. on November the 9th, 2020. The department referred to the deaths as homicides in a series of recent tweets and at a press conference Thursday carried by multiple New York City television stations and newspapers. The New York City Medical Examiner's Office ruled Wednesday that the infants, who were twin boys, died from, quote, blunt force trauma to the skull, end quote, said NYPD Lieutenant William O'Toole.
The medical examiner ruled the death of both babies blunt force trauma to the skull.
So what does that indicate to you?
Blunt force trauma, that they had injuries to their skull, which could be... No, they ruled it a homicide. It doesn't appear to be from a fall. It appears to be either being hit or purposely blunt force trauma. If a fall, you're going to get multiple different things, so they ruled this from blunt force trauma.
A building superintendent found the first body, called 911, and then found the second body, O'Toole said. He was pretty shaken up by what he found.
I mean, he was pretty upset about it. He went back there and he cleans the alleyway every this was on a Monday after the weekend, so every Monday he's back there cleaning. First he found one. He ran to the to his helper to get a phone to call 911, and when the helper came out again is when he found the second baby. So yeah, he was pretty, he's a grown man, but he was pretty shaken up for what he found.
One of the bodies was on a side patio, the other was on a back patio at 1460 College Avenue. Some reports have indicated the infants' naked bodies were wrapped in brown paper. O'Toole said one of the bodies was inside a black bag and was surrounded by tissues and a shower loofah in the neck area. The other was apparently not. The infants had been dead for less than 12 hours when their bodies were found. Original theories that the babies died from a fall or perhaps had been strangled by their own umbilical cords have since been ruled out, O'Toole said.
Yeah, they were newborn, but there was no umbilical cord wrapped around the baby's neck. There was other items in the bag that were around the neck area of the baby, not in the belly.
The medical examiner's report said the infants had been born full term and weighed 5 to 6 pounds each. Surveillance video revealed no suspicious activity, O'Toole said, and a search of the garbage turned up nothing.
Obviously, we canvassed for a pretty extensive video canvas. At this point, we don't see, there's nothing in the video. We see the bags where the babies were, but we do not see anybody who places it there. At this point, we haven't come up with anything.
Reporters are reportedly using DNA from the boys' bodies in an attempt to locate relatives, but that won't necessarily lead them to the alleged killer. That's why they're leafleting the area with posters seeking additional tips. What we're looking for is the public's help, said O'Toole, the commanding officer of the Bronx Homicide Unit. We did a pretty exhausting investigation so far, but there's not much that goes on in the city that someone doesn't know about. The investigation now is a scientific investigation where we turn to fingerprints and DNA to be analyzed in the lab, said Detective Brianna Constantino. And while that takes time, we're looking for the help of the public. If somebody knows anything, you can remain anonymous, you can call, and you can give us your tip.
So the investigation now is a scientific investigation where we turn to fingerprints and DNA to be analyzed in the lab. And while that takes time, we're looking for the help of the public. If somebody knows anything, you can remain anonymous. you can call and you can give a tip. They've upped the reward. It's now $10,000. And again, we're asking for the help of the public to come forward with any information that can help us in our investigation.
People gave us their fingerprints, gave us their DNA. So I think it's kind of shocking to anybody to have 2 full-term babies thrown in the garbage in the rear of a building, O'Toole added. He then speculated that the infant's mother, who remains, quote, a person of interest, end quote, may have suffered from domestic abuse and may not have been the killer. We would love to speak to the mother and help her, obviously, if she is in a desperate situation.
The residents of the building here were very cooperative. People gave us their fingerprints, gave us their DNA. So, yeah, I think it's kind of shocking to anybody to have 2 full-term newborn babies thrown in the garbage in the rear of the building.
You know the race and sex of babies?
I'm not going to get into the race, but both are males, identical twins. It's basically on the side of the building here. You go down an alleyway where the garbage begins, and then the rear of the building. It's not really a patio or a communal area. It's locked in the front here, and it's locked from the elevator. So people come out and put their garbage here, and that's an area where the super uses on the side of the building. But there is a fence in the rear of the building which people can get access into that area.
People who live in the building where the bodies turned up have been cooperative, but have not been able to provide solid leads. Cops talked to every resident in the 42 apartments in the College Avenue building, as well as those in neighboring buildings, the New York Daily News reported. None recalled a pregnant woman living in or visiting the building. Police are now theorizing that someone threw the infants over a fence into the patio area, or perhaps dropped their bodies from a fire escape from the next door building. They have ruled out the notion that the infants came from a homeless shelter in the area. Several women at the shelter were pregnant. However, they were still pregnant after the boys' bodies were found.
Again, someone who is physically pregnant with twins should really show. We spoke to the people in the shelter. Again, most of the residents of the shelter were in shock, as most everybody was. And they were very cooperative. And I believe it was four females that were pregnant at the time in the shelter. All of them were still pregnant after the babies were found. So at this point, we don't believe it came out of the shelter.
Is the unidentified mother considered a suspect or a person of interest? Or?
Of course, she's considered a person of interest. We'd like to speak to her. What trauma or what situation was she in that caused her to, either she gave birth to these babies and someone threw them in the garbage, so either some domestic or relationship situation that she was in. So yes, we'd love to speak to the mother and help her, obviously, if she is in a desperate situation.
This case just blew my ever-loving mind. Somebody out there knows that someone was pregnant, very pregnant, with twins. Twins, mind you. And now that person doesn't have the kids. Even if it was somebody that even said that they put their children, too, up for adoption, I would at least call the police and say, look, I know someone who just said they gave their kids for adoption. Or anything. The kids are at the hospital and the mother's not. You know what I'm saying? There's got to be somebody that has a weird situation going on and no babies to account for. So if you watch this video and you know somebody and you're in the Bronx, please call the police. These kids deserve justice. 2 newborn twins, identical, didn't even get a chance to live. I mean, that's terrible. I'm going to end the story on that note, but thanks for watching, guys.